This video is about the religion of the Neolithic people of Great Britain and Ireland. This is an interesting subject where we know at the same time very little and quite a lot. This has led to much debate, speculation and interpretation. In this video I have decided to stick to the cold hard facts and avoid conjecture and superstition as much as I can. The new practice of farming arrived in southeastern Europe in 6500 BC, already 1000 years old from where it had begun in the Levant. After reaching Turkey, then Greece, it spread generation by generation across continental Europe until it hit Western Europe in 5000 BC. Here it flourished. However, it did not cross into Great Britain until around 4100 BC, approximately 6000 years ago. It migrated here with new people who decided for some reason to migrate en masse. They brought with them a rich and dynamic culture. Prior to this, these islands were inhabited by a small population of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, people like you or I, with their own rich culture and dynamic religion. We don't know if these people resisted, assimilated or imitated these newcomers, but within a relatively short period of time, the Mesolithic lifestyle disappeared to be replaced by the new Neolithic way of life. The first monuments that arrived in Britain was the passage grave or passage tomb. Its design imported from the earlier Neolithic sites across Europe. Indeed, this was the first type of uniform monument to be created by human beings. You can find them throughout Western Europe. You can plot the migration of the earliest migrants through simple passage graves along the west of Wales and Scotland. These monuments were not just houses of the dead, they were active, participatory locations where early Neolithic rites were practiced. They quickly became plentiful in all areas of the UK and Ireland. There are plenty of regional differences to these structures. The tombs go by various names depending on their type: the passage grave, the long barrow, the chambered tomb and the dolmen are just some of the names. Plenty have an outdoor staged area or a place of gathering, often referred to as a forecourt, place for the community. A widely held theory amongst archaeologists is that these megalithic tombs were purposely designed to look like the long timber houses of the time period. For some time we have known that the bones of the dead were often removed from these tombs. We know this as a lot of the bones are sun-bleached. They may have become sun-bleached for one of two reasons. The bones were stored outside for reasonably long periods of time, presumably for some sort of religious practice, or the bodies of the dead may have been left to decompose naturally outside on mounted scaffoldings or burial trees for a period of time, similar to some of the indigenous people of the Americas and certain Aboriginal Australians who left their dead on raised wooden platforms to keep the corpses away from scavengers or dogs. The bones inside the Neolithic grave were often mixed together in piles containing different individuals. It was thought for a long time that this was because the communities held little regard to individual consecration, the bones being returned to the tomb in a haphazard way, but newer thought tends to go with the conclusion that they were mixed together purposefully in a ritualistic manner. New research is finding that in some tombs there are bones that predate the building of the tombs. This means that communities were perhaps carrying around bones of their ancestors for potentially some time before interring them with the rest of the community. In some tombs, grave goods such as pottery, beads and flint tools were present, but by no means in all, and only in relatively small amounts. Around 3650 BC, causeway enclosures or interrupted ditch enclosures were also built. They are usually vaguely circular areas marked out by pits. More than 70 examples are recorded in the UK and over 100 in France, with their practice also reaching into Scandinavia and Central Europe. It was found that these areas, which took significant resources to make, were visited in fact fairly rarely and were often not settled. It has been suggested that they were largely ritualistic sites, with the banks containing pottery and human remains deliberately deposited in sight. Later, between 3400 and 3000 BC, the Neolithic people of the UK and Ireland built circus monuments, banked earthwork pathways leading between 50 yards to almost 6 miles, sometimes paralleled with other circus monuments. Proto-henge monuments seem to have developed from the circus monuments at around or slightly after the first building of the circus monuments. These are circular earthwork bank and ditch monuments. Henge orientation is highly variable, and it is debatable whether the earlier henges had any sort of solar alignment. The henge monuments began a fascination with circles that would last well over 1,000 years. The Neolithic peoples became fascinated with them and incorporated circles wherever they could in their houses, monuments and art. As time continued, these monuments, houses and grave sites became orientated more on the sun, especially towards solstices. In 3000 BC, the first stone circles and indeed wooden circles began to be built, as well as the singular standing stones or menhirs. They are common throughout Western Europe, but are most common in Great Britain and Ireland. They are built in different configurations and in different sizes. A significant number show some sort of clear-cut solar alignment with either the sun, moon or stars, although not all of them have any obvious alignment. It is not surprising the Neolithic people would have worshipped the sun. They were farmers and used the sun to inform them when to plant, harvest and meet for annual feasting. They also had a deep interest in springs, waterways and islands. Surprisingly, around this time seemed to be the most violent time in the UK Neolithic. Round barrows began to be built in the late Neolithic around 2200 BC. This represents a totally new form of burial practice. Although previous barrows such as the long barrow and circus barrows had long existed, in the centre of the mound was placed a chamber or kist or cut grave for a body. A kist is a stone cut coffin-like structure. Skeletons inside remained fully intact, and were not made public. The tombs became more individual. Bodies were cremated as well as buried. Many round barrows accommodated satellite burials and kists close to the burial, or even inserted into the side or top of the barrow itself. Mural art is often a common feature in these sites. Most of the art is abstract, displaying hollows, circles and spirals. Some of the art is purposefully hidden. I'll be doing another video on this soon, so please subscribe to the channel if you'd be interested in seeing it. In 2800 BC, the Belbeek people arrived in the UK, migrants from Western Europe. Their arrival coincides with the near total annihilation of the population of Great Britain. The exact reason for this are not known, but it's assumed that climate change, disease, and ecological disaster may have played a role. Within a short period of time, the Belbeeker incomers had taken over around 90% of the gene pool. Surprisingly, these incomers seem to take up a significant proportion of the UK's ritualistic practices, although cultural change was still significant. They continued to use the stone circles and bury their dead in round barrows, although now the deceased were manipulated into positions seeming to cradle Belbeek pottery vessels. Grave goods were more plentiful and exotic. They continued to practice some sort of solar worship, especially stationed around the sun. It was these people that added the impressive trilithon arches onto Stonehenge. There is some divide on the exact start of the British and Irish Bronze Age, but the timeline from 2500 BC to 2000 BC is generally referred to as the Late Neolithic, Early Bronze Age. It would be wrong to think that these traditions changed in the Bronze Age. People continued to visit the megalithic sites, bury their dead in round barrows and meet at pre-arranged times of the year to feast. They made beautiful artifacts using the new metalworking skills they learned, often displaying a sun or disc. I hope I have been able to take you on a journey. What I wanted to express was not only the shared practice, but the difference and divergence between religious practice at different places in different times. There is a lot that I have not been able to mention in this video. The early Neolithic giant shell mounds in Ireland, the practice of rock smashing near to passage grave sites, the recumbent stones of Scotland, and the practice of building crannocs, the circular man-made islands in Scotland in the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to donate to the Buy Me a Beer link, which is found in the description. Like, comment or subscribe. I really do appreciate any kind of interaction. You can check out the music from the link below and check out my other excellent Neolithic and Bronze Age YouTube videos on my YouTube page. Thank you for watching.